Hello again, everyone. We're recording. I'm Soheila Bana with West Contra Costa Fire Safe Council, and your host, Leisa Johnson, has the floor.
Hey, welcome everybody. So we have a tight schedule tonight. We're going to try and keep on track and be done around 7 p.m. And I think you all got the agenda ahead of time. So just quickly to recap, Soheila Bana is the president of the West County Fire Safe Council, and she's going to give a brief introduction. And following that, we're going to have an evacuation drill overview presented by Battalion Chief Bontempo and Richmond Police Department Sergeant Donald Patchen, and an update from the Community Emergency Response Team, aka CERT, and the Emergency Radio Communications representatives David Swanson and Diane Richwine. And then Soheila is going to close with next steps, and then we're going to open it up for public Q&A at the end. And so hopefully tonight, as Soheila said, we're all in the interest of looking out for everybody's safety here. And this first evacuation drill in the area was, went really well, in my opinion. And I think there were some lessons learned, and we'll hear about those tonight. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Soheila Bana.
Thank you. Sorry, I wanted to share. Apparently, I hit the wrong button. So if you just look at the map behind me, and I tried to move on one side so you can see it, we live in the very high fire hazard severity zone. The entire east side of Highway 80 and Point Richmond, which is your area. In addition, we have Hayward Fault, that red line running through the area. So we do need to care about emergency preparedness and do our best. West Contra Costa Fire Safe Council has been established with the help of Chief Montoya. We've been trying very hard actually to do it and couldn't do it until Chief Montoya came on board in the city of Richmond and helped us with his contacts with CAL FIRE and California Fire Safe Council to establish it. We're very grateful to him. And since then, we've had collaboration and help of other fire chiefs like Chief Bontempo and Chief Rincon in many different ways. We're going to talk about it later on. But to make it brief, one of our main goals is to do wildfire mitigation and also emergency preparedness for the communities. So communities are ready for public emergency and disasters like wildfires. We have a discussion group. You're welcome to join. Just give me your email address and I'll put my email address in the chat if you want to join. We have monthly board meetings, so you're welcome to join. And we have quarterly meetings with our advisory board. And our advisory board includes some major stakeholders in the community from PG&E, East Bay Mud, and East Bay Regional Park District, who actually gave us a tour of your neighborhood and what they've been doing around it, and it was great. We are trying to improve things with the help of Measure X and with the help of City of Richmond. We're just establishing connection with the City of Richmond, even though our fire chief helped us, but we are establishing connection with Public Works. And I will explain to you more about next steps, how you can get involved to improve things in the City of Richmond with regards to wildfire safety. I'm not going to take much of your time. Just want to give you a heads up that Contra Costa County, because of Measure X, now we have a fire safe coordinator, Michelle Reinhardt. I'll be happy to put her in touch with your community so she can tell you more about what Measure X can do for your community and coordinate activities. She's part-time though, a little overwhelmed at the beginning of her new role in this position. I stop it here, but I have a little more to tell you about how we can improve public safety and wildfire safety in the City of Richmond at the end. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Soheila. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Battalion Chief Bontempo with RFD.
Good evening, everyone. I am Victor Bontempo, as Leisa stated. Thank you for having me tonight. I've also invited Battalion Chief Rico Rincon. He is the department's PIO, Public Information Officer. I know there may be some questions at the end of the presentation that pertain to the use of Nixle and any of our social media platforms. And Rico, Chief Rincon may have a better way to answer some of those questions if I do not. I want to start off by thanking everyone who participated, who helped organize, and did a lot of work to make this a successful event. Any evacuation drill, any type of training that we go to, any drill, in my opinion, is always a success, even when it fails, because we learn so much from these things. I know last year I was asked if one car participated or one family participated, would that be a failure? And I said no, because it gave us an opportunity to work with multiple agencies, our community warning system. It gave us a chance to work on all of our social media platforms. And in doing that, we find our deficiencies, and those are points for us to work on and become better. Our main goal, the purpose of this drill, is to train with the county's community warning system, the Zone Haven Awareness Program, and to evaluate traffic flow on the streets in and around the Brickyard Cove and Point Richmond area. The exercise also included multiple public agencies and community groups, and gave us the opportunity to work closely together in preparing in a large-scale emergency. The goals were public education, testing of the CWS, which is the community warning system, to test our own abilities to use all the systems available to us. Again, evaluate traffic flow and evacuation routes, and to educate the residents and for them to prepare and be readiness and resiliency for all of the residents. And also, we'd like to throw in the Zone Haven program, which is Know My Zone, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. Am I able to share my screen? Let's see here.
You should be.
Oh, I need this thing. No, it doesn't want to.
We can see it.
You can see it? It's
Yes.
not. Oh, let me do this. How's that? Is that all right?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so I'll just go down some of these slides and we'll talk about the results. Again, this was the original evacuation flyer that stated the drill date and time and what it was to entail. We gave QR codes to sign up for the CWS, for Zone Haven, Nixle, and also the Contra Costa County Fire, West Contra Costa Fire Safe Council. Excuse me, Soheila. These are some of the platforms that we used. Again, we had great participation by multiple agencies, and it was a good turnout at the command post for the briefing that morning. Here's a few pictures of some of our fire crews with Council Member Cepeda and other residents that were at the collection point. So let me make this a little bit bigger. So in some of the survey questions, we talked about what HOA do you belong to? What streets do you live on? And so I'll go over those results from the surveys. I would say Brickyard Landing was our biggest participant by 61%. It took me a little bit to research all of the different HOAs within the neighborhood. And I didn't realize there were so many. So we have a pie graph showing that the HOAs that did participate: Brickyard Cove, HOA 1 and HOA 2, Brickyard Landing, Seacliff HOA, and Waterline HOA. This bar graph here, if you all can see it, can you guys see this bar graph okay? Is it too small or is it okay?
It's okay.
Okay. We had our our Brickyard Landing by far won the Gold Star for the Day award by participation. I had it written down and I'd lost that piece of paper. I want to say they had roughly 62 people actually physically evacuate. So kudos to them. And they also turned in about 30 or 32 surveys for the Google surveys, which helped collect the data that we have. This is just a bar graph, and I can distribute this to everyone after this, to the HOA presidents and managers, so that you can distribute it amongst your HOAs if you'd like. We had how many people in your household, including yourself, participated in this drill today? The majority of people that per household were 2 people. And there was a couple houses that had more than 4 people evacuate. And so that's really good. It was a good participation. A lot more people participated in this drill than they did in last year's Carriage Hills. Again, last year was the first time that we had ever done this. I think that with the help of Rocky and Leisa and the other HOA managers and presidents helped really get the word out about this evacuation drill. About 20% of the residents that did evacuate took their pets with them, and 30% did not. In an urban area like where we live, is that hugely important? Well, it is if you want to take your pets with you in the emergency. In the rural areas where they have livestock, it's a completely different story, and there are studies on that I won't get into because they don't really pertain to us.
What number of people?
This was an interesting one to me because this is, how well do you feel that you are prepared for an evacuation due to a disaster? And 9 people said that they were very well prepared, and good for them. I'm happy that you are well prepared, but just like our job in the fire service, and I'm sure in the police service as well, is that you can never be too prepared. So don't ever become lackadaisical or take it for granted that you are where you need to be. Always try to improve, gain your own knowledge, have the initiative to know your evacuation routes and how to prepare even better. And if you're at that spot where you are number 5 out of 5, then help your neighbors and your community out so that they can get where you're at. The majority of the people were average and felt like they were pretty good. And some people, 6 people, 11% were at a 2. And so evacuation drills and public education that we provide and CERT programs provide really help everyone. So these are just overviews of the questionnaire. Please indicate which of the following preparedness actions you have taken. A lot of people have signed up for CWS, Nixle, and Everbridge. And that was really surprising to me that so many people did. A lot of people, about 25 people had go bags ready to go. And, 32 people had go bags. So this is really good. This shows me that some of our messages are getting through to the community. The next slide is the Contra Costa Community Warning System is the primary means for the county to communicate with you in critical events. All landlines are automatically enrolled. And what other types of notifications are you registered to receive? So 45 people said they were registered with CWS text alerts, CWS email, and then 27 said CWS voice to their cell phone. That's good numbers, but from some of the comments from some of the residents stated that they did not receive some of these alerts till after the drill is over. So that's concerning, and that's something that we are working on with CWS and trying to understand why that happens. Some of the community feedback, what did you find helpful about the CWS alert? People that did receive it, like the phone and text alert. They like the landline call. There's a lot of people in our community that don't use landlines anymore. But at any point, the CWS automatically enrolls landlines. The CWS alert gave the address for the evacuation meeting point. It gave good evacuation directions, some people felt, and some people felt that it was very precise and clear instructions. What did you find helpful about the NICS alert? Text message about local emergency information. It was great to know what to do. It helped me evacuate on time. Gave me specific email instructions on how to sign up, directions, and made me aware. It's a great backup to the CWS alert system. So when we talked about the zone haven and know your zone, 28 people said that they don't know that what their zone is. And that's this data is good for us because this shows us that we need to have public education campaigns and show people how to sign up for CWS properly so that it's not coming in as spam or being blocked. Showing, we want to teach people about zone haven so that they do know their zones. So those are some public education campaigns that we need to be better at on our end. And, that's what we will work on. We'll take this data and work on so that we can prepare the community better. Would you like to receive email with more information about your zone directly from Zone Haven? And that was yes. And so what I'll do is all the people that participated in that survey, I will give that those to Zone Haven, and so that they can email more information about the Zone Haven platform. So what route did you travel to the temporary evacuation point? And most people just took Seacliff Drive over the hill to Canal Boulevard. And some went through the Waterline community to Canal Boulevard. I would say that the majority of everybody used Seacliff. And I wasn't there to monitor the traffic. And once I'm done with this presentation, maybe one of the volunteers can chime in and let me know how that traffic was, or one of the participants. Interesting, 6% of people were not willing to check on your neighbor before leaving a disaster area in your vehicle. Again, we're doing this for the community, and I understand we're in self-preservation mode when disasters strike, but do your best to make sure that you're checking on your community members, your neighbors, but most importantly, as you prepare, make sure your neighbors and community members are prepared as well. During an actual evacuation, do you have any condition or situation which makes you likely to need additional time or assistance before leaving your vehicle? And most people said no, but there were a few that said yes. And the major thing with this slide or this question was to educate people to leave early.
I have something.
Yes.
Yeah, this is kind of emotional. One of the main problems that I had after my treatment was feeling like my identity was taken from me. And that was hard to explain, like in the straight group, because I don't know, I just felt like my sexuality was such a central part of my existence.
Mm-hmm.
And then to have it altered in such a horrific way, it just kind of like just twisted my brain. Like I just couldn't believe my body it's not going to function the same way anymore. And if anyone has experienced erectile dysfunction, that even makes it even worse, because it made me feel like not like I wasn't a man anymore, or I wasn't a gay man anymore, or I wasn't going to be able to respond sexually anymore.
I'm so sorry, but I prefer to have questions at the end.
self-esteem tremendously. And I don't know if anyone ever experienced that.
This is something that's not pertaining to this presentation.
Yes, I muted the person. I'm gonna mute everyone from now until Chief Bontempo is done and Lisa will take the questions. My apology, everyone. Let's continue, Chief Bontempo.
So the main purpose, sorry about the phone ringing in the back. The main purpose for this slide is to just make sure that, you know, you're checking on your neighbors, and more importantly, prior to any disaster or emergency, making sure that they are on the same page as you in being prepared. And you never know, they might be able to teach you something as well. Okay, are you a member of an organized block or neighborhood? This is pretty much split almost 50-50. So some say yes, some say no, and this is just encouraging you to take part in CERT. Most people on the next slide, 94% of the people are not CERT trained. So again, when it comes to public education and campaigns, this is something that we need to do a better job in promoting CERT and getting more people involved. You know, this is going to only benefit not only you individually, our community, but as well as the first responders that help. Several people were interested in learning or opportunities in home hardening, emergency preparedness supplies, taking the CERT training program, and the household preparedness course. So that's good to know. I'm happy that at least 12 people wanted to take the CERT training course. If you are part of the CERT program or thinking about it, please move forward with that and encourage others around you to do so. And 76% of the people that took the survey are interested in receiving CERT emails. And so I can go back on those surveys and find out who that is and start getting information to you. So some of the community feedback to wrap this up is what logistical difficulties did you encounter during this evacuation? The main thing was traffic. I heard a lot of the comments pertaining to traffic. The email alert went to junk. And that comes into play when you are setting the CWS alerts up, making sure that they are not put into your junk, saving the email address so that they don't go to junk. Some people did not receive any texts. Others could not find the entrance to the parking lot. And, you know, there's something to be said about that. And one of the questions that I received was, how does this drill differ from a real life emergency? And, you know, in this evacuation drill, we're able to commit multiple resources from different agencies and volunteers to monitor traffic, to set a collection point up, and to, you know, help guide and answer questions to participants. In a real emergency, we may not have that at the initial stages, especially in the evacuation stage. We are going to be heavily involved in mitigating the emergency and evacuating the residents physically. So our hope is that you evacuate early, and when you do receive an email or a text or an alert, that you follow the directions that are specifically on that alert. And if you're in doubt, if you don't know how to get to that collection point, just get out of the area. Even though I registered with a QR code, I only received an email and it went to my junk mail. So again, a lot of these are the way people signed up for the alerts, and that comes with education on our end to help you along with that, to make sure that these alerts don't go to the junk mail. Some people said we did not have signage to lead them to the collection point. And again, in a real emergency, you probably won't have signage. In the drill, we could have done a better job with that. So that's a good note for me to make for our next evacuation drill, to have some better signage. Exiting garage, you know, that's another thing. If you have a feeling that this is an emergency where you're going to evacuate prior to any alerts coming out, get out as early as you can, especially if you have any disabilities or family members do or need extra time getting out. You know, leave as early as you can is the key. The parking lot, I heard that there wasn't great signage on routes within the collection area and the parking lot, so that we will work on that on our next evacuation route. Again, that goes with not knowing where to go. I thought that the directions were pretty specific, but we will do a better job. The initial alert said proceeding to the temporary evacuation point located at the shipyard number 3 cafeteria trail parking lot at 1333 Canal Boulevard. So I think for future drills, we will make the signage better to help with the evacuation collection point. Again, in a real emergency, we may not have that luxury. And the last one was getting my wife out of the house, and I don't know really what that meant, but thought it was pretty funny. What suggestions would you like to provide us that you believe would assist us in improving response to evacuations? A vehicle driving around with speaker to announce the emergency, as not everyone received texts or answered their phones if they are not opted in to learn the immediate emergency. That is a tough one, and that I cannot give a concrete answer on whether that would happen in a real life scenario or not. There have been emergencies that I've read up on after action reports where police are able to go in their police cars and be on their PA system and make those announcements. Other times they haven't been able to, they're physically evacuating people. Many older people don't know what to do with QR codes. Please provide an alternate. That's a great suggestion, and I really appreciate that. So in the future, I think we'll put QR codes and web addresses as well on these documents. Sound on the phone for text notification was not distinguishable from standard text, which are sometimes ignored. So that is something that you can change on your own phone on your end. That is an individual decision to make on what tone you receive. So if you program CWS, for instance, into your phone on that contact, you go in and you change the chime or the different tone that you receive so that you know it's different. More specific information about evacuating persons with disabilities. That's also a great comment, and that's why I included that in this. That is something that I will take to my Fire Prevention Bureau and to see what kind of education we can disperse on helping people, and maybe even tagging addresses with our dispatch CAD systems, letting us know that there are people in the set address with disabilities. And then who leads the caravan to the evacuation site if it is not a drill and police are not directing traffic? So for this drill, we had the evacuation point or the collection site extremely close to the said emergency. We did that because what we were really focusing on is using the social media platforms, the CWS alert, educating the public in Zone Haven, and working on our own response with multiple agencies. In a real event, you're not going to have a leader of a caravan. You're going to give directions on where to go to a collection point. It's usually a lot further away than it was in this drill. It's usually a lot bigger. And at the very, very initial stages, you may not have anybody there setting up that evacuation site. Eventually, once more help arrives, we get other agencies in that specialize in setting these sites up, such as Red Cross. The signaling on the text needs to have some flagging it as an alert. The SIG alerts have an arresting sound that signals it as important, but this came through as a standard text. Again, that goes back to the distinguishable chime that you can set up on your own phone. That these CWS alerts are not set up like the SIG alerts. And there was one person wrote, there was too many, sorry, there was supposed to be another O there. Too many agencies to register for. And that's your personal preference. You know, we're doing our best right now to educate the public and giving you as many platforms as we can possibly give. And it's up to you to what level you want to take this to. Again, this is, you know, taking some responsibility and showing initiative on knowing your area, knowing your own evacuation routes, being prepared and educating yourself. And we are trying to supplement that the best we can. So with that, I believe that concludes my little PowerPoint presentation, which can open us to any questions.
Okay, so I think what we'll do next is we're going to have a quick update from Sergeant Donald Patchen from the RPD's perspective, and then from CERT and the radio communications. And then Soheila will give her next steps because I know she's going to have to go to another meeting, and then we'll close with public Q&A for the representatives to answer their questions. So Sergeant Patchen. You're muted, Sergeant Patchen.
You would think by now we'd have this down to an art, but I guess not. What I was saying was it was impressive from the police standpoint, the amount of people actually participated. I can say that I wasn't expecting the level of participation that we saw. So it was nice to see everybody out actually participating. To kind of piggyback on some of the issues that were just discussed, people were asking about signage for the parking lot and people directing traffic, telling people where to go. And we did oblige in having that. The tough reality is that this was an actual emergency event with an actual evacuation. We're not going to have the personnel to have somebody there directing traffic and telling them where to go. In an actual emergency event, fire is going to be most likely dealing with whatever the emergency is, whether it be a fire, collapsed building. Our role is going to be to actually be around working on getting evacuations started, getting announcements made, whether it be the PA announcements that we're talking about. We are working on a community warning tone in our new police vehicles. It's kind of working towards being the standard here in California. It's a high-low frequency followed by a pre-recorded message indicating there's an evacuation occurring. But all in all, I think everything went really smooth, and we were impressed with the turnout.
Thank you, Sergeant Patchen. I'm glad you mentioned that you guys are working towards getting that tone on your new vehicles. So
I actually met with the manufacturer and they demoed it for us. Something that is kind of nice. It's a little lower volume than I'd like, but we need to see if we can tweak it. But there's an ability to pre-record messages basically on the box that is controlling our siren, and we can have it pre-recorded in different languages also. So in the event of an evacuation, we can have pre-recorded messages that we can broadcast while driving through neighborhoods and sounding that high-low siren to get people's attention.
And is that independent of the type of police vehicle? Since I know you guys are going to have a different vehicle for some of your new vehicles?
Well, it's not the vehicle, it's the system. So the current light bars, I think everybody's kind of used to them, where they have kind of the red and blue panel on top. That manufacturer is basically kind of gone defunct and they're no longer available. So we're going to be going to a newer style light bar. So all the new cars that are being outfitted. So as our fleet turns over, these new cars will be coming online. Part of that new system will have the capability of doing that. And it'll be a different color. It's just an all clear light bar is what we've gone towards.
Thank you. Okay, Philip, can you wait until the end for Q&A? Philip?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. All right, so next it's going to be David Swanson and Diane Richwine giving some updates from CERT and the emergency radio communications teams.
Yes, thanks, Lisa. I'm Diane, and this is David Swanson. And we were asked to set up an emergency communications network for the drill by the CERTs. And on a summary, we had 12 CERT volunteers. And I'm just going to start by summarizing who these CERT volunteers were. And they were, 5 were residents of Brickyard Landing. And the other CERTs that volunteered came from other neighborhoods, such as Richmond Heights, North and East,
Marina Bay, El Sobrante. And I think the bottom line, I can get to that first, is that this drill demonstrated that communication works from a neighborhood incident command post that we set up at the Brickyard Clubhouse and getting emergency messages to the city EOC, because the incident command post in the drill, of course, was the same. The firefighters were there, the fire department was there, that was their command post. This was also the CERT command post, but in a real evacuation, the people will be communicating. And so we'll talk more about how that's done. But first of all, I do want to thank Jay Fenton for setting up an antenna and a mobile ham radio station in the front corner of the clubhouse. And this enabled us to be able to communicate with the city EOC. So in the clubhouse, we had a ham radio operator and we had an FRS radio operator. FRS is simply a walkie-talkie person who would receive messages from people in the field. So there were CERTs walking around the clubhouse, walking around in the adjacent area, down by the avenue down there, transmitting messages back to the walkie-talkie, the FRS radio operator. Now, the types of messages that we got were things like the status of the evacuation, the status of the traffic going out, any traffic jams, delays, some reports of damage, roadblocks, collapsed structures, stalled cars. Now, most of these messages were made up because these didn't really happen, but we made up some messages so that we could practice. Anyway, we assume that these kinds of situations would happen. Now, in the event of a true emergency, the FRS radio operator would get that emergency message to the person at the incident command post, immediately give that message to the ham radio operator, who would then get on the ham and communicate the message to the EOC radio station, which was David down at the simulated station. And I'll let David talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So I'll just finish what I wanted to say about the CERT participation. We had CERTs also at the assembly area. We had 3 radio operators there. We had 3 CERT volunteers at a table to sign up people. And we only had about 5 people signing up who were interested in taking CERT classes. And I should share that with Chief Bontempo or others, whoever has names from the survey, we could share those names. And then again, the messages from the radio operators at the assembly area were similar. There's one of the radio operators communicated back how many cars were coming in, how many were going out. There was another CERT who helped with the traffic flow into and out through the gate. I don't know how well that worked. I hope it worked well, but that was something we tried to do. And then, yeah, David, talk more about the emergency messages.
Hi, I'm David Swanson. I was participating at the beginning for help with setup, and then went to the RCC, the Richmond Communication Center, where we have an alternate EOC location with temporary radios there, acting until we get our emergency radio set up later. And so I got the name of the EOC. I was using it as a tactical call sign. So they were calling me from Brickyard Cove Command Post, and giving messages to the Emergency Operations Center, and we received them there. We got a total of about 22 messages altogether. 3 of them were emergency messages, and they were sent on the 213 forms, the FEMA 213 forms, as we discussed earlier. And they were true emergency messages that would be handed to the fire department, or the in the case that we get the EOC going, we hand them to the emergency operations manager, and they would respond in that fashion. They came in quite clearly. We had no trouble receiving them, and the communication sound, the quality of the communications was excellent in all cases. And Jay Fenton and Karen were manning 2 radios at the assembly area, and they counted the cars for us and gave us a complete lowdown as to the status reports of how cars were coming in and going out, and when they finished coming in. Also, we were well. Thanks for Jay for lending his antenna and radio to us, and setting up the equipment and helping it tear down. So we had everything cleared up in a timely manner. But I think the drill went extremely well communications wise, and it was very clear signal. So there was no communications problem this time. And as I understand it, Jace might be able to help, or it might already have helped install a permanent antenna at the Instant Command Post in Brickyard Cove. That was one of the reasons we tested this very antenna. And it works so well, it looks like that's the one they're going to use.
And David and Diane, I just want to thank you personally for all the work you guys have put into this as well. You guys did a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you. We had a total of 12 CERT volunteers, and I was real proud that we had that many CERTs willing to help and come out on a day like this.
It's outstanding.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and you guys did an excellent job, and it was great to see that everything worked, and you guys were very efficient and effective. So kudos to you and to the community for everything that you bring to it. And for all the people who came from outside of the area, from other parts of the city and beyond, thank you for your participation. Okay, so Soheila, do you want to give your closing comments, and then we will proceed with public Q&A?
Sure, I'll try to make it as brief as possible. Believe me, I can talk 2 hours for the importance of emergency preparedness and what you guys can do. But let me start by saying that emergency preparedness is like insurance policy. When usually don't need it, but when you need it, you need to have a very good one. So I would like to inform you, first of all, that I'll set a set of information about enrolling in community warning system, knowing your zone, the Genesis app and everything, and Leisa and Philip and others will distribute it with you. The other thing is a good news about red flag days. We will have signs that inform you of red flag days where there's a serious danger of wildfires. And if you have disability issues, you're urged to leave the area ahead of time. Have your go bags ready or whatever you can do to be prepared. City of Berkeley just had their talking sirens tested. We are going to talk to CARE to see if we can get them with the help of refineries. We'll be doing our best for your public safety. Anything we can do. We are working on emergency exit routes. One of your exit routes is marine infrastructure that we currently don't have. We asked the city council, I'm a city council member too, and I asked my colleagues to pass $500,000 for wildfire mitigation, emergency preparedness. Unfortunately, it did not go through. I insisted, they said, okay, go itemize and bring it back. You know what I did? I decided to ask Public Works and Richmond Fire Department to come up with the wish list of all the needs, what's missing. It's a long list and I need your support. Please come to the City Council on September 26th, hear the presentation and support us. Support your fire department, support West Contra Costa Fire Safe Council, and support me in our request. This is very important. Also, we're having a fundraiser going. We have an open house at Fire Station 63 in the very high fire hazard severity zone on October 14th. I'll pass the information again to our neighborhood council and Leisa to forward to you and Rocky. Please come and please support us. We have a fundraiser going on the Equation Open House. Please donate, contact the businesses, you know, ask them to donate to us. And if you have time to volunteer, just to send emails to follow-ups, that will go a long way. We are asking for fire detection cameras in the area. We're asking for so many things. You ask Rocky, he's familiar with some of them. He's in the discussion group. He can tell you more. I'm not going to take more time from you. One more thing, with the help of Philip and your neighborhood council, I'm going to do the Fire Safe Council is working on moving homeless encampments out of wildfire areas while we're working on strategic solutions. The wildfire season is coming, maybe in October. But we need to be vigilant, we need to be prepared, we need to do our best, and we do need your support. So please support West Contra Costa Fire Safe Council and support me at the city council and support the fire department. I just want to end by saying thank to Chief Bontempo, Chief Rincon, and all the Sergeant Patchen, our fire department and our police department, who by state law is in charge of evacuation. And thank you very much for caring about safety and coming tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Soheila. And with that, I'm going to open it up to Q&A, and Philip, you're going up first. You're muted.
Sorry, my clicker's not clicking. Thank you. I want to put on my neighborhood council hat for real quickly. And I actually don't have questions. I have statements that will the answers or responses to which will take longer than this meeting, but I wanted to bring them to the attention, particularly while we have the county here. Soheila, thank you for putting this together. Leisa and Rocky have spent hours and hours. Thank you both as volunteers for putting this together. We have several concerns that are key, and I just want to touch on them real quickly. And also tell you something positive that we're going to do to help with this. One of our concerns is that above and beyond Brickyard Cove, we don't have legitimate evacuation plans to get out of Brickyard Cove, particularly if the tunnel is clogged or disabled, or if there are trains. So this is, which is always. The second issue concerns the unhoused population, not only, and thank you for mentioning it, Soheila, and FYI, Soheila and I are going to drive this neighborhood in a couple weeks, and I'm going to show her some of these fire issues. The unhoused population, particularly under the freeway, is burning electrical wire. They are burning wood, and they are burning drugs. And it's a huge problem that we need to look at with police and fire together. A third issue concerns not specifically Brickyard Cove, but evacuation routes and ability for police and fire to get into the area around Tewksbury, Cottage, and Castro during rush hour, when our streets can literally be gridlocked for up to 5 square blocks for up to 5 hours. And I know that police and fire say they have access and they know how to access those, but that's not possible. The cars have nowhere to go. So you can't move cars to a place where they have nowhere to go. It's a separate conversation than Brickyard Cove, but nothing that affects Brickyard Cove does not affect the surrounding area, because if we have to get out of Point Richmond, we are all sitting ducks here. The last thing, so I really wanted to continue to address that. Caesar could not be here today because there's a problem with upcoming BNSF action tomorrow.
I'm on now, Philip, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Caesar. So you can fill us in on the end. Thanks for coming. So I wanted to point out that those are a couple of the fire issues that we have that surround the evacuation as the people from Brickyard Cove get to go out. The good news is that in addition to a police what to do in case of emergency list, the PRNC will be doing a mailing, hopefully in October, but maybe in November. And we're going to list all of this information. And our goal is it's the type of documentation that will go on somebody's refrigerator or in their junk drawer, so that they know how to do this, and what to do and who to call. And we're hoping that for senior citizens who may be a little less tech friendly, being able to write out for them how they're going to be able to access this information and get on these emergency notifications will be there. We also are looking at a meeting where we're actually going to teach people to use QR codes and teach people to use the City of Richmond app to report fire hazards. So that's what your neighborhood council's working on. We do the best we can. And thank you all of you who organized this. Is quite a spectacular meeting and a great turnout from our neighbors on a Monday evening.
Thank you, Philip. I appreciate bringing those items to everybody's attention. Diane and David.
Hello, I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
Copy. Okay. Just one comment I want to make, and it's I heard this on the national news. There's going to be a national test of a warning system nationwide on October 4th. And I was just going to ask Chief Bontempo if he was aware of that and how it would apply to any other emergency notifications. And I guess this is a first, so they're going to just try to test it. And you turn all your phones, your radios on, and your televisions on for that day in the morning. I believe it's 11:20 a.m. on October 4th. Chief Bontempo, do you have any knowledge of that?
Well, David, thank you for reminding me about that. I have been told about it. I don't have any details on it. That is something that I can follow up with the county and talk to Battalion Chief Rincon. He might have some more information with that, and to see what we can do to be if we need to participate in that, or if that is something that is done nationally. And I don't have much information on that. Chief Rincon, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, I do. We received notification within the fire department. I've actually been working with our deputy chief on some documentation and some community outreach to prepare people and make sure that our city and jurisdiction are involved. So more news to come in the near future here.
Great. If anybody else has a question, please raise your hand. And then I'm going to go to some of the questions that I think were in the comments. I do have a couple questions for Battalion Chief Bontempo. Could you comment on, I know one of the issues that was a critical finding that we found was with the zone haven, it cut off HOA2, which is the people located in the spit. Were they able to correct that so that they are now located all in our zone?
I must have missed that comment. Was that a documented comment on one of the surveys?
No, but we discussed it at the very end, and I know you were busy at the end of the drill.
Yeah, my brain was full. It started overflowing out of my ears.
Yeah, and if you call up the zones, there's a line that goes through the Richmond Marina there.
Okay.
And it completely cuts off all the homes in HOA2, so they did not receive the alerts.
Okay, so that is something that I can definitely talk to my zone haven contact about. We have the ability to change the zones and make them as big or as small as we want. And so that I will look at that for RCH E0 18 and 19 to make sure that they include all of that area.
Yeah, that was one of the key findings that, so Andrea Shukas and Jeff Shukas he's the president of that HOA and his wife is Andrea, and she brought that to my attention.
Okay, very good. That's good information. Thank you. I'm writing that down so I can make that happen, and I'll let you know when that does.
Excellent. Norma?
Hi, good evening. Thanks for the presentation. It's very informative. I have three hopefully brief questions. So the first is, because I don't live in the area of this evacuation, the focus, I was wondering if on the real checklist there was an option to alert all of Richmond to an emergency in any neighborhood of Richmond. As one of the presenters pointed out, people came to volunteer from other neighborhoods. And even though people might not be able to come to volunteer, it would be good that they knew about it so they don't come here to go to the beach anyway, etc. So that was an idea. And also I could walk out there and help, but I wouldn't know if I were not informed because I'm not in the zone. So
okay. So to answer that, I think that would be for us on the front end of a drill like this to do a better job with our social media platforms and in educating or getting out to the entire city that there is an evacuation drill in a specific area of the city. And that way everyone knows about that drill and can help out or stay out if need be. As far as the alerts go, they will go out to a particular area. It depends on the area that I give to the county for the CWS alert. So if I say RCH E018, it's going to hit every address within that zone, that specific alert or that emergency. Because I think the last thing that we want to do is throw a general alert out to the entire city when it's only affecting a certain pocket of people. We don't want to overload the system, the freeways, the roadways, and, you know, start some type of a panic when it's not necessarily necessary in other parts of the city. Does that answer?
Thank you. My second, I wasn't expecting an answer, so thank you so much. My second question is, how can, given a real emergency, is there a method for us to notify the city of Richmond to emergency hazards? So the cliff has fallen, the railroad tracks are out of order because an electrical pole fell on them, the streets are blocked, whatever. Is there a way to text? Because that is the easiest way in an emergency to communicate.
Great question.
I would say call 911, but your question is there a way to text?
And I'm sorry, I'm not expecting an answer on the spot. I just
let's just talk about this real quick. Chief Rincon.
Yeah. So basically, when we have actual emergencies, or if this was a large scale disaster, one of the things we would probably encourage is people only calling 911 if they have an actual emergency, so we don't overload the system, or have, you know, a lot of calls, maybe just for information. So typically we would set up additional campaigns and put out information about using our non-emergency line. But we could probably provide at a later time. Our dispatch center does have the option for text. You can text 911 in Richmond Dispatch. Sergeant Patchett, I'm not sure if you want to talk a little bit more about how our 911 text system works. It doesn't take pictures and videos and things, but just the words it is able to accept. So that may be a way to catalog that information without overloading our 911 system with calls, if that answers what you're looking for, Norma. Sergeant Patchett.
Yeah.
And yes, the text 911 is a feature that you can use. You can't only text, as you said. There isn't the ability to send pictures or anything else, but there is the ability to text to 911.
Yeah, so then as dispatch received that information, it would be relayed to our EOC, and then that would go into the intelligence and data gathering that we could use to get to our emergency responders and CERT teams, or even if there's traffic advisories that we have to put out for people who are traveling through the area or areas to avoid.
Great, thank you, perfect. And my last question for all the money is there any thought on the checklist to engaging with the business community, either out at Brickyard Cove with the Brickyard Cove Marina, the Yacht Club, and all over the city? Obviously, PRBA in the Point is what I'm familiar with, and I know there are other neighborhood organizations that reach groups of people. But specifically, companies have employees and they're required to be prepared for emergencies. So former office manager at Costa Engineering, I would not know anything about this unless I lived here. So
I think that's a great question, Norma. I know that Leisa and Rocky and other HOA individuals did reach out to the local businesses in the area that was affected for this drill. And they had quite a lot of success in communicating with those businesses. But that is something for the fire department to look at. And again, through public education campaigns, not only for the residents, but for businesses as well. And that is something that, you know, we would have to brainstorm to see how best to deliver a program like that. Leisa or Rocky, do you have anything to add on to that on your success?
Go ahead, Rocky.
Yeah, Victor, thank you very much. And first of all, thank you everyone for being here tonight. Specific to the businesses, and it applies to individuals as well. To me, I mean, let's keep the messaging simple. One has to, whether you're a business or you're an individual or a family, you have to commit to your own safety. You really do. And that is not just lip service, but that means you have to activate something in your mind or in your person or in your activities. And there are a ton of resources available, whether it be the city, the county, the state, the federal government. You can find out just about anything you want to know about emergency preparedness. But if you are not committed and or if you're not curious enough to ask, you're never going to be prepared or even start down that route. So a personal commitment to being safe for your community and participating gets you a long way down the road. And I just want to again praise the CERT teams that turned out. They did a marvelous job, and David on the radios and all. We did, in fact, on this drill, reach out to all the businesses in the immediate area. Of course, the drill was pretty much located in the Brickyard Cove area. So there weren't that many businesses here, but there were enough. But Leisa did an excellent job, and all of the HOAs did an excellent job of reaching out to their people. And it continues. You know, you never get it right. You never get 100% right. So it just continues. So my response is, A, make a commitment to your family and participate in a drill, even if it's your own tabletop at home. You know, tabletop. Talk to your family, talk to your kids, talk to your parents, whoever's living with you, and say, okay, if really something happened, what would we do? And what do we need in order to get out the door? That goes a long ways to big events, but also planning for the small events. What would you do if you have a flat tire on the road? That's an emergency to you. You know, it may not be the community, but to you it is. So those are kind of the thought processes you can go through and participate in a drill, even if it's a home drill. But also just start to commit, go down that road with us and with others. And there are resources, man, let me tell you, there are resources available to you information wise. So don't stop.
Great message, Rocky. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Rocky. Yeah, and yes, just so normal, so you know, all the liveaboards, the managers at both the Richmond Yacht Club and the Marina Complex had information to provide to all their liveaboards on boats as well. And that we've been in discussions, Rocky and I, about trying to even try to coordinate a water evacuation route at some point with the marinas. So that's a work in progress. So we have about 5 minutes. I want to respect everybody's time tonight. I encourage people in the chat to submit additional questions. I will have Soheila not only just record the meeting, but keep a copy of the text in the chat, and then I will submit the questions. If you please submit your email address with the question, I will make sure it goes to the appropriate individual, and then we will make sure we get an answer to you. And so with that, I want to have, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, Rabia Rachel Mead, and then Caesar, and then with that, we'll close the online questions.
Okay. Yes, this is Rabia's thread, but this is Peter Ferber talking, and I actually texted my question, and I'll read what I wrote. I'm concerned about the additional units that are housing units that are being proposed within the Brickyard vicinity. In an emergency, additional units would complicate the problem of evacuation. Is there a law about the density of people within a tight area as regards to their ability to evacuate? I mean, is this an argument that we can make about the additional units that are being proposed?
You want me to answer that, Victor?
Fantastic.
Yeah, so typically that wouldn't be public safety plays a role in that, but that typically starts with our planning division within the city as they go through planning different areas in development. We could get you some more city information of who to contact within the city, as well as your district council members are here as well to be able to guide you through that process. But a part of that process is typically environmental impact reports. Those plans go through the fire department for street size, where our vehicles can fit, so on and so forth. So there are a lot of things that are on the checklist as we look at new development throughout the city. pack density or things that you bring up as your concern. But that would start, like I said, with our planning department, and they'd be able to go through that checklist with you and then explain what some of the laws are that allow or prohibit things in certain neighborhoods or areas.
And Peter, just so you know, there are several members in the community, including the Brickyard Cove for Alliance for Responsible Development, that is very much in communication on these matters with the city regarding emergency vehicle access. That's continuous as required by CEQA with respect to the trains and the issues that we have. So these are discussions that are ongoing with the city actively, and also trying to provide some evacuation route bypasses specifically for emergency vehicles. Cesar Zepeda, Councilman Zepeda, is working with me and others in the community to help get these implemented. So we're very much making this a priority for the people over there to make sure they're not trapped and can get out safely, effectively, and in a timely manner, and for our emergency vehicles to have timely access to us. So Cesar, I'm gonna pass it over to you. Cesar.
Thank you. Sorry, I was trying to get to the mute button and it hit on me. So hello, everybody. Sorry that I am late. I was on an urgent meeting that I had to be at because of the update that I'm about to give. BNSF, I know we just talked about emergency and trains, and BNSF is going to be closing Girard Boulevard due to some construction work on their railroad that crosses Girard and Cutting. The estimated time is going to be starting tomorrow morning at approximately 9 a.m. and will go till Thursday.
So you have to go through the tunnel.
Time TBD still. We don't have a final time. This is still all work in progress, but I wanted to give you guys an update. They did put signage up a couple of days ago to let people know that this was going to be happening. But we don't think it was appropriate, so we want to make sure that everyone knows to stay away from the area until they reopen it again. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please let me know. Reach out to me. I will be posting something up. We're working on a communication piece and an actual map of the affected area. And I'll be posting that on my social media and then sending it out on email as well. So
thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. I just received a notification about the closure, and we just dispersed the email to all of our fire companies and police and surrounding agencies. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. We are working very diligently. It was a meeting of a lot of people in the room, so that fire, police, school, everyone that needs to know, hopefully will know by the end of today that this is happening. And unfortunately, BNSF said this was an emergency, so there wasn't a lot of time for us to plan. So everyone's planning really quickly.
I'd rather them fix the problem than have a derailment.
Yes.
So, and I see some questions in there. I know people are pressed for time, and I want to be respectful of that for the battalion chiefs and RPD. There are some questions in there that you're going to see people asking about specific plans if there's an industrial incident that happens, which is on everybody's mind over here. There are, just so people know, if you go on Google Maps and you zoom in to all of the tanks surrounding the Santa Fe and Harbor Channel, there is over 400 storage tanks in this immediate vicinity, over 400. And nobody over here, you guys, this is for the fire to know, nobody over here knows what the heck is in any of those tanks. And we are extremely worried. And I know that as part of the Honda Port of Entry project approval in 2008, there was an emergency response plan that was required. And we don't have any idea if that thing has been updated in real time. It's required to be updated annually per CEQA. And we have no idea if any of that contact information and the wheel of information that was presented during that review has been updated. And there's a request before the PRNC and the Planning Commission right now for a company over there with some additional stuff. They're planning for. So this is going to be a topic that you're going to see coming up. And so I think it's pretty relevant that we have some type of a community meeting to better understand the ERP for that area and how that's monitored and audited and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's
Very
weighing
good.
heavily on everybody's minds over here.
Yeah, I think that, you know, we do think about these chemical disasters and emergencies often, and they can come by water or rail or air. And, you know, there's so many factors and so many different things that can happen in those types of emergencies that we, you know, those are where these communication systems and platforms come into play, whether you get warnings of shelter in place or evacuation routes of a certain route. Again, it comes back to public education on all these social media platforms and alerting systems, but that is quite the concern. And I understand your concern. I don't have a perfect answer for you right now, Leisa. You know, I wish I did, but
I know. And some of this involves water evac. And Soheila, I know you said, if you can just reiterate, Soheila, there's going to be a council item September 26th, and that's going to be Public Works and Fire helping
Three
you.
items that is, sorry for cutting you, Leisa, but 3 items that specifically pertain to our communities and our firefighters have asked for them. One of them is marine infrastructure. The fire department has a boat, it's not functional. That's not acceptable. We need a functional boat for the fire department, just like the one for the police department. The other one is budget for hazmat training. If there's a leakage, if something happens, one of those storage tanks, we need our firefighters to have proper training to do damage control, whatever is needed to get done. The other one is rescue training for the firefighters. You know, if there's a bad car accident, I don't know, whatever, the firefighters can tell better than I do, rescue by airplane, by helicopter. They need training for that to be able to save your lives without endangering themselves. Those are just 3 items that come to my mind when you talk about your area and everything. And one more thing I want to say quickly is it's okay to count the shortages and problems and everything. In my view, in my experience, if we work together, come up with a specific plan, and more especially if you come up with sources of the budget, like Measure X matches up to 50% of the solutions we come up with. If you work together, propose a specific plan where the money comes from, and we, the West Contra Costa Fire Safe Council, have a good relationship with Measure X, we can ask it. Chief Montoya and our fire department is doing an excellent job too. Let's work together. Let's define the problem, specifically what the solution may be, then approach the city. I know it may sound ridiculous, but it took us a couple of months just to establish a contact with Public Works in the city, somebody who would provide the requests of residents to Public Works for like shaded fuel break, evacuation routes. For your information, Measure X does those things for free. If your evacuation route is not clear, too much vegetation, fuels on the way, they come and clean it for free for you. Behind your houses, if you need shaded fuel break up to 100 feet from your house, they do it. Just let us know. We have contact at the city who would submit the request to Measure X. My point is, let's come up with the solution in addition to counting the problems. And West Contra Costa Fire Safe Council is there to help you, just as it needs your help. We need to work together. We'll be willing to help you in any way we can. Thank you very much.
And we will, Soheila, just be in contact with me and the PRNC, and we'll make sure and educate the community when they really do need to call in on these items at city council meeting. I can tell you that calling in, letters of support are great, but all our council meetings are via Zoom. And if you can call in on an item and voice your concern, even if you just say, please support this item, 5 seconds. That's all we need in order to put the pressure on the council to make sure the money is being allocated smartly to help ensure everybody's public health and safety.
Yes, thank you very much for your support in advance.
Great. And with that, I'm going to close the meeting. I know we're a little bit over, but I never want to skimp on people's public health and safety. And I, again, just want to really thank Chief Bontempo, Battalion Chief Rincon, Sergeant Patchen, and all the people from RFD and Fire. I especially want to thank Soheila. I want to thank Rocky. He's a gem in our community over here in the Point. He's a wealth of information when it comes to these types of things. So please feel free to reach out to Rocky if you have any questions, or myself or Soheila. And thank you again for your time and attention. And thank you, Council Member Zepeda, our district representative, for attending.
And thank you, David Swanson and Diane Richwine.
Yes.
Appreciate your help as well.
Yes, my apologies.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. You as well.